All right, welcome back to your favorite cast of pods, Double Coverage Sports Talk, presented by Elevated Sports. I am your redheaded friend here, Luke Heaton, joined by my good partner in crime, Mitchell Mason. We are fresh off a weekend full of sports. As you can see, we are wearing our Sunday red, or in this case, our Wednesday red, in honor of El Tigre, Big Cat, Tiger Woods, winning the Masters. But today we'll do a Masters recap. We'll hop into some NBA playoffs, and then since this Sunday is Easter Sunday, we will our lesson will be kind of centered around Easter and kind of talking about how the gospel message and what Christ has done in our lives, considering with this Sunday, like I said, being Easter. But to begin, we will get right into it. Many men followed a little white ball around this past weekend, but only one prevailed, and that was Sir Tiger Woods. Mitch, how do you even recap this weekend?
Oh, my goodness. Well, it is good to be here again, and wow, what an incredible Masters. You and I were texting all weekend. That was a busy weekend. We had ring day going on. We had parents' weekend. You are sporting brand new Aggie gold on your right hand there. Congratulations to that. But just what an incredible weekend. Tiger finally put it all together again. You talked about last week when we did the Masters preview, hitting the fairway is not the struggle at Augusta. It's generally, depending on where the pin placement is, it's your approach shots. You saw a lot of guys get into trouble on Sunday with their approach shots. Tiger did not play perfect golf.
No.
He missed the fairway quite a bit.
Yeah.
But every single time he missed the fairway, it felt like he had an alley straight to the cup. Like, he kept hitting it into trees. One of them even bounced off of a patron into the perfect spot where it was in the trees, but there was a clear alley just, about 30 yards wide where he could hit it right down the alley. And I don't know why he couldn't do that on the fairway some of the times, but every single time Tiger got into trouble, he escaped. The big story going into Sunday was Francesco Molinari, a guy that you had talked about last weekend as one of the favorites. And he was playing tremendous golf. Tom Brady was even tweeting about Molinari, saying, how do you beat this guy when he doesn't make a mistake? Well, Tom, Molinari made a couple of mistakes.
That's right.
He got into trouble at Amen Corner. So did Tony Finau. That final pairing was Molinari, Finau, and Woods. And only one man on, what was it, 12? Was it 12 or 11?
12's the par 3.
12, yeah. So on 12, only one man did not put it into the drink, and it was your eventual Masters champion, Tiger Woods. You got to feel for Molinari, though. I mean, golf's not a popular sport in Italy. There's never been a Masters champion from Italy. He could taste it, and then he just disintegrated on the back nine.
Yeah. Like you said, strokes gains approach. Your approach shots is the most important stat at Augusta. Tiger finished first in strokes gains approach this past weekend. The last five, before this Masters, or I guess this Masters, the last five players to be first in strokes gains approached in the Masters finished first, second, third, and first in the Masters. I mean, and like you said, these greens are putting on glass, putting on marble.
Well, and they had weather too. That was the thing. That was a wild card, right? Every weekend of golf, there's always something generally that doesn't play kind of according to the plan. This time it was the weather at Augusta. They had some rain Saturday, Sunday. All of a sudden, those greens less fiery, as Sir Nick Faldo would love to say. All of a sudden, the lines were a little messed up. Lines where you would generally put a certain amount of mustard on the ball, and it was kind of, here's how the green putts. All of a sudden, it settles down. The normal lines that guys would take to get to the cup, they don't start working. Tiger, though, able to overcome all of it. Straight to his fifth green jacket.
I mean, it's just saying out loud that Tiger Woods won the Masters.
Yeah.
I will admit, I was a hater. Not necessarily a hater, but I did not think he was going to ever win again, let alone a major.
No, I mocked him when we were talking about the betting odds last week.
Yeah,
we said 14-1, and I was like, "There's no way he hasn't put it together again."
Yeah, but Augusta National Golf Club, you have to be a cerebral player.
Yeah,
and listening, you'll listen to every golfer in the world. They'll say, to win at Augusta, to win the Masters, you have to be able to know where to hit your misses. Like, they're playing to know, all right, if I miss this shot, where's it going?
Right.
And set themselves up to where they can have a good chip onto the green, set himself up to save par. That's what Molinari was doing. Molinari entering into Sunday was 17 for 17 on par saves in scrambling because he was able to control his misses. Molinari is a robot, a pure robotic swing. He just didn't miss.
No.
He had 4 bogeys the entire tournament, which is the second lowest, or the lowest since Steve Stricker, I believe, years ago. And then
ice cold with the putter.
Yeah. In the front 9 on Sunday, I mean, let's be honest. Tiger didn't play amazing on Sunday. All Molinari had to do was shoot 2 under to win. Yeah, and he shot even, maybe. I forgot what he shot on Sunday.
I feel like he fell back a little bit farther.
He was 2 over at one point.
Yeah,
but Tiger, it came down to who could handle the pressure, and Tiger was one that prevailed because one, he's such a cerebral player. He knows how to handle his misses. And he just knows his way around that golf course, and he's done it so many times. He was able to handle pressure. He didn't crack a smile at all. You looked into his eyes, and it was literally like he was just he was in the zone.
Yes. Which you do need that. You need that killer instinct to just, it does. It makes it a little, I guess, harder to empathize when everything falls apart, right? Like Jordan Spieth, when everything fell apart for him on 15 2 years ago.
It was 12.
12.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. Jordan's very kind of outspoken on the golf course, and so it was tough to watch him implode like that. Molinari, you felt bad for him because they kept setting up. Sure. They kept setting up this Italian heritage storyline. Like Jim Nantz kept talking about how many golf clubs there were in Italy, and it was like nobody.
Jim Nantz is an all-American jinxer.
Yeah,
I mean, golly, Jim, just let him play some golf.
Yeah, he kept being like. At one point, I want to say he compared him to who did he compare him to? He compared him to someone I want to say who plays soccer here in the United States, maybe like a Landon Donovan, who kind of like sparked American interest in the sport of soccer again on a national level. Jim was like, "Oh, he's gonna do this for the nation of Italy." Yeah. Hello, friends. This is gonna work
about
out.
That after the Masters.
Yeah, exactly. And then it obviously all falls apart. Molinari did shoot 2 over on Sunday.
Okay.
So had he shot even, he and Tiger would have been tied.
Yeah,
which really stinks for him.
And you think of like Molinari was leaving the door open the entire day because I texted you. There was with 4 holes to play. There was 11 players within 2 shots of the lead.
Yeah,
and then 12. You see Finau and Molinari put it in the drink, put it in Rays Creek, and then the group before them, Koepka and Poulter, both hit it in the water.
Yeah,
and Tiger's the only one that finds the carpet. And you're like, man. And on a side note, how does the 12th hole do that? I understand the swirling winds.
Oh, I know.
But it's 150 yards par 3.
150 yards. No one has ever accused Tony Finau of shooting his shot under.
No.
I mean, Tony is a guy that can drive it 500 yards. And then, like, Faldo even said, like, when you looked at the replay, there was nothing wrong with Tony's shot. It was a strong, confident shot. And it missed the landing zone by 12, 13 yards.
And then Molinari's wasn't even close.
No, Molinari's was kind of a feeble attempt.
Yeah.
And the broadcast team was kind of very quick to jump on him for that. It had to have been the wins. I think that had to have been just a gigantic part of it. How about Patrick Cantlay? 2 over coming into the weekend, and all of a sudden at one point he held the outright lead.
Yeah, at 14 under. That would have been the largest 36-hole comeback. Honestly, I didn't know who to root for. I love Koepka.
Same.
Honestly, you're rooting for Tiger. I would have loved the heroic story of Cantlay. I mean, he made the cut on the number.
Yeah.
And he had, like I said, the outright lead on Sunday with like 2 or 3 holes left, and then he went bogey. Yeah. And that's tough. I mean, he still shot like 10 under on the weekend, which is ridiculous. Yeah. But, man, there's so many different storylines.
Yeah, Dustin Johnson. Backdoor Dustin Johnson just
birdies,
snuck in.
3 of the last 4.
Yeah.
Koepka had a chance.
He did.
He missed 2 birdie putts on 17 and 18.
He did.
It was great to see. Tiger wins his first major since 2008, first Masters since 2005, first player to win a major in 3 different decades. He had like a 22-year span from his first to Masters to his last.
Yeah.
I mean, it was amazing. Now obviously the question is, can he can he get Jack's record of 18 majors?
Yeah, and I think it was Jim asked him that, and he said, well, let me enjoy 15 first. I personally am of the belief that I don't think he gets to 18. I just don't. Even though his back is healthier and he's in a better place personally, right? He still did mention that his back was bothering him. That's why his putting was so bad on Thursday and Friday. And his putting Friday, I thought he'd lost it. He was in contention on Thursday, had a good first round. Friday was in contention there for a little bit, and then he backed off. He didn't take advantage of some of the missed shots that guys at the top of the leaderboard at that time were having. And I just thought, his back's bothering him. He said that. He wasn't able to spend enough time on the putting green. I think he's going to ultimately lose his chance here. And then Saturday absolutely roared back, and Sunday obviously took advantage and ultimately won the jacket. So I don't think he's 42?
I think he's 43.
43? I don't know. He's had so many procedures done. I'm happy for him that he won the Masters. It's good for the game of golf.
Yeah.
But I don't know that he gets to 18.
Yeah.
Let me see him win 16, and then maybe I'll change my mind.
And like you said, for Tiger, it's health.
Oh, yeah.
Because he can still play, and he can think the game still so well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, him and Phil, the game of golf is in a great spot.
Phil's Twitter video.
Phil, oh yes, Phil. We do not deserve Twitter. Phil Mickelson calling out Cooch. Yeah, I don't think we'll do any side bets because I probably won't get my money with Coocher. That was amazing. A shot at Cooch.
But I like his caddy. Woody's a good guy.
Yeah, and then he said, "Today I'm gonna hit absolute bombs." I'm like, Phil, you are amazing. Oh. But the game of golf, Tiger and Phil are playing great. Mm-hmm. It is just we're loaded with good young players.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much. There are so many things fun to watch in the Masters. Webb Simpson shoots a 64 on Sunday.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
Spieth gets a top 25, which
very
I thought,
quietly.
which is
very
honestly,
quietly,
very quiet top 25, and I think that's a good sign because he's been really struggling.
Mm-hmm.
But man, Tiger
Big
prevailed.
Cat's back.
And I had
Big
four of
Cat
my
is back.
buddies go to the Masters.
Ooh.
I was like, man, of course you go to the Masters. Your Tiger wins
That's
it.
incredible. Were they at the 18th hole for him?
Two of them were because they only had one. They only had like two passes, so they had to switch. So.
And if you took Thursday and Saturday,
yeah.
Oh, that's a rough. Yeah, give me. I mean, obviously, I'm betting all four of them wanted Friday, Sunday, if that's how they did it. But, woo,
I know.
Quite a story for two of them.
Oh, I know. I'm trying to think of any other storylines. Oh, how about Jason Day almost throwing out his back, picking up his
child, and then I mean, they talked about that on day one, right? He was saying, "Oh, my back is in such a terrible place. I am hurting all over." He was limping down the fairway after every single shot.
And he was in contention.
Shoots 11 under, ties for fifth. No big deal.
Yeah, he was getting treatment on the second hole on the ground, like getting massage.
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to DQ himself?
Yeah, was it Saturday or Sunday when the security guard tripped in the mud and nearly took out Tiger?
Oh, my
Tripped
gosh.
over his ankle. Yeah,
Yes.
Tiger comes up limping, and I was like, oh, it's done. That security guard's going to have to go into witness protection. He's about to be murdered. Someone tweeted that if that had been Jason Day who had been tripped over, like, the only course of action would have been an amputation of the ankle.
Yeah.
So, two guys that played injured and played very, very good golf. I mean,
know.
It was fun to watch. I'm a budding golf fan. In fact, my mother over the weekend on Friday, we get back from Chase's ring ceremony. We're eating lunch, and I've got the Masters on, and my mom goes, "My goodness, this is Luke's influence. You sitting here watching golf on a Friday, not on a contention Sunday, on a Friday." And I said, yeah, that's probably true.
I am a firm believer that the golf bug, there is no medicine for it. Yeah. And once you're bit by the golf bug, there is no going back.
Well, I'll have to have a full report when I get back from Biloxi. Me and some buddies are going out there for a bachelor party.
Nice.
There's like a casino, sportsbook, golf resort all in one. And so they want to, play some prop bets, and then we'll play a round of golf on Saturday. I don't even know how many zeros I have to place after my handicap to have a shot at having a respectable number, but it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Never played a full 18 holes of golf, so
hey,
this will be interesting.
It's never too late.
I mean, call me the bread factory because it's going to be Slice City all over the place. If you have plans to be in Biloxi on, what is it, the 27th through the 29th, cancel them.
Yeah.
You're in danger.
If you're within a square mile to the right side
Yes.
of the golf course.
I was an
Mitch is
opposite
on.
field hitter in baseball, so it is my natural side.
Yeah.
So just don't stand to my dominant side.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Yeah. Tiger opens up as the favorite to win the PGA Championship.
Well, of course he does.
Of course.
He was sitting at 14-1 when we didn't know how healthy his back was going
Yeah.
into the Masters, so it does make sense.
But it's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, this will help golf re-explode again. And honestly, Tiger is what put golf on the map. I mean, that's
Right.
I was talking
With
about my
our
bu-
generation.
Yeah, I was talking about one of my buddies. I haven't fact checked this, but he was talking about the Golf Channel and how. So Arnold Palmer was like the lead voice in starting the Golf Channel. Said, "Man, we need to televise golf. We need to have more media in golf." And then Tiger is what allowed the Golf Channel to really explode. Because everyone rallied around him.
Yeah.
He no matter who you were, what your background was, you're rooting for Tiger.
Right.
And now Tiger won the Masters. He won a major.
Yeah, and I think, Tiger, like you said, everyone rooted for Tiger. He had such a great story. He started out as a kid, was so successful, obviously, in 99, had that iconic moment with his dad right
Yeah.
after he wins the Masters. 2009, his reputation, his story takes a major chink in the armor, right? And there are definitely two camps on Tiger, whereas before I don't know that there were.
Yeah.
There have been people that have always rooted for him never to come back, right? That he really shouldn't be allowed to have success after the way that he kind of destroyed his family in 2009.
Yeah.
And, I don't know Tiger the person. Obviously, what he did in 2009 was terrible. We all have mistakes. That's part of the Easter story that's coming up here at the end.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I can't ever root for him because clearly he's a terrible person. I don't know Tiger the person, right? But as far as an athlete, I did find myself rooting for him because it is so good for the game of golf. It's exciting. If you'd had a guy like Patrick Cantlay actually hang on, it would have been a tremendous story. Everyone would have been writing headlines for that week, and then it probably would have dropped off, right?
Yeah.
And, nobody totally pays attention the rest of the year. Obviously, you're going to have the majors draw their crowd, but it still feels like golf is kind of that niche sport, right?
Yeah.
The same way that soccer here in the United States draws a crowd anytime we have the Olympics or the World Cup.
Yeah.
But no one's actually watching MLS soccer.
Yeah.
And so for Tiger to win and to kind of burst back onto the scene, for him to have that awesome moment with his son, I just thought it was a really, really cool weekend. And, now the ball is back in Tiger's court. What does he do? How does he handle this success? How does he portray himself going forward? And I liked some of his answers that he had, especially with his kids. He said to Jim, they just see me as dad. That's all they know me as right now because I have not played my best golf while they've been alive. And so I just want to see how he handles that moving forward.
Yeah. And he's lightened up incredibly.
Yes.
Which
He was smiling.
Yeah.
Saturday and Sunday, I had never seen Tiger crack a smile on a golf course until he won.
Yeah.
He was smiling after he would hit the fairway. He'd
Yeah.
be kind of, not smirking, but kind of the side smile as he walked
and
out.
he laughed. And a few tournaments ago, he made a joke at Kevin Na. Kevin Na is famous for walking in his putts, and then Tiger impersonates him in a real putt in a real tournament, jokes, and the whole crowd laughs. And you would have never seen that from Tiger.
Right.
So it's good that he's lightening up a little bit, which is awesome to see. But a great Masters tournament.
Oh, fantastic.
One of the greatest comeback stories in all of sports history. This will be talked about forever.
I agree.
From what we thought Tiger was never to come back, and an 11-year span of
insane.
an 11-year drought where you
Right.
thought there was no recovery, comes back and wins the Masters.
Is golf the only sport where you can have as up and down of a literal decade as Tiger did and still come out on top on both sides? I'm just trying to think, like, obviously you can have, if you have a long enough career, you could win championships that far apart. And I think any sport, right, if you stayed healthy and if you were that kind of player. But to go through all the trauma and the physical literal torture that Tiger did with his back, he couldn't walk for a year, basically. I mean, he fell down on a golf course because his back hurt that badly.
In 2017, he whispered the words, "I'm done," in the tournament.
Yeah.
And I think maybe like over a year ago, it was a big deal that he posted a video of him chipping 60-yard shots.
Right.
And that was a huge deal.
Yeah.
I think the only thing, you think of like golf or tennis, sports where it's just you. Team sports, there's too many moving parts, too many variables to have that rocky of a span and then come back. But golf and tennis, I don't know the tennis equivalent. I'm sure there is some type of huge comeback story, but I'm not a big tennis nerd.
Right.
But golf, I mean, there's some guys. I mean, Tom Watson. I mean, there's the Champions Tour, and those old guys still play. But like, these old guys can still win on tour, which is awesome. But nothing immediately comes to mind of amazing comebacks like Tiger. And that just goes to show how amazing it was.
Yeah.
And that we got to witness it.
Right. Let me ask you this. Rory McIlroy, a very disappointing weekend. He made up for it a little bit on Sunday, but overall just didn't do anything. Is he ever going to get that Grand Slam? He just does not play well at the Masters.
I feel bad for him because there's so much pressure. Every graphic when Rory McIlroy is on TV, there's a graphic next to him, chase for the Grand Slam.
Yeah.
I'm like, God, just let him play golf. And I understand you got to get ratings and it's a big deal. But I think he just feels the pressure.
Yeah.
And on times where he's been in contention on Sunday, he just kind of poops the bed.
Yeah.
It's not good.
No, he does not do well. He was one of the guys that had to tee off from 10 to start the day, wasn't he?
That was so weird. Yeah, the first time
that was weird.
The Masters has ever had a morning start, and plus it was almost like a shotgun start.
Yeah,
which is kind of unprofessional. But some golf writers are saying they want it to happen more often. In other tournaments, like normal
kept
PGA
it moving.
events will do it.
He kept it moving.
But like it was, so I ended up not going to church on Sunday. So I forgot my parents.
So
were in
now
town.
let's move into the lesson.
Yes, my parents were in town. Had my car, and I woke up, went to go get my keys. Like, ooh, I don't have my car. Guess I'm watching the Masters. So I watched from 7:30, or not 7:30, from 9:30 to 2, which selfishly was awesome. Spiritually, not great, but I'm here to tell the story.
There was a devotion listened to promptly afterwards.
Yes. But that is the Masters, and we could talk about it for hours and hours and hours. But awesome seeing Big Cat get a win. So now we'll move into some NBA playoffs. Our beloved Mavericks are not in the playoffs, but yes, next year, hopefully fighting for a 7 or 8 seed.
Yeah.
But it's been a little different than we thought. Some of the higher seeds that dominated regular season have dropped a game.
Yes.
Including Toronto losing Game 1 to Orlando.
Kyle Lowry did not score a point.
Yes,
in
classic Kyle Lowry playoffs. San Antonio beats Denver in Game 1. Golden State drops Game 2, 31-point comeback.
Brooklyn beat Philly.
Brooklyn beat Philly Game 1.
Amir Johnson had the cell phone on the bench.
Yeah,
that was great.
It's been. I love it. It's a little more fluid.
Right.
And I'll just throw it to you. What are some initial big NBA playoff points that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, I think just going kind of shotgunning matchup by matchup. Usually I do not watch the first round of the NBA playoffs other than maybe a game or two just because.
Outside of like the 5 seed, 4 seed games.
Right.
Usually it's a 4-1 series or 4-0 sweep.
Agreed. And, there's always been the LeBron storyline where it's just like, okay, LeBron's going to make it to the finals, and let's see who goes to oppose him, and then flip a coin. So let's start in the East. Milwaukee, Detroit. First of all, Detroit, we'll see you next year. They got embarrassed by the Bucks.
Yeah.
Giannis played, 24 minutes? Had 27 points and a double-double, had, double-digit rebounds. Detroit at one point trailed by 35.
It's bad.
Which was just embarrassing. Now, they didn't have Blake Griffin. He was out with a foot injury,
I think it's knee tendonitis.
Oh, okay.
And he said if it was up to me, I'd play. And then Shaq and Chuck were like, all right, if it's up to you, then play.
Then play.
It's up to you. So there's weird things going on there. Team doctors aren't letting him play. But without Blake Griffin, Not that they had a chance anyway.
Yeah, so the Pistons, see in 2019, 2020. Boston and Indiana, Boston wins game 1. I don't think Indiana really has a shot without Oladipo.
Yeah.
They're just not the same team, and I think the talent of Boston ultimately carries them in that. They looked good in game 1. Brooklyn takes game 1 from Philly, which Philly could not get anything going. I mean, they could not get shots to fall. Brooklyn was just running laps around them. D'Angelo Russell looked pretty solid, so I don't think Brooklyn wins that series. But hey, to take game 1 in Philly, and now you're going back to your own building, the Barclays Center. That's huge.
And the Philly fans were booing.
Yes.
Booing early.
Yeah.
Now, here's what I'll say about Philly. I was listening to Colin Cowherd today, and he was making the argument that they should trade Ben Simmons. Now,
Okay, interested.
that's honestly not a crazy hot take because Philly can't shoot the ball.
Yeah, and Ben is the worst out of all of
They're
them.
like an old school 1980s, 1990s basketball team where they're big and they're strong and they've got a big point guard, but they can't shoot. Right. Embiid's great, but who is he able? They can't do inside out game.
Right.
Jimmy Butler.
Who can he kick it out to?
Tobias Harris has had a career year shooting the ball. Jimmy Butler's not a great shooter. Ben Simmons absolutely cannot shoot.
He can't make it from 15 feet.
So, and they have no bench. They traded Landry Shamet away to the Clippers.
Hey, they have Markelle Fultz. No, wait, they traded him too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But man, like in game 1, the Nets were dominant from 3.
Yes.
And Philly was like 4 of 25 from 3, and it was bad. Yeah. So, and we've always said Ben Simmons' ceiling is not that high. He's right around his ceiling.
He reached that ceiling very, very quickly, and that's what impressed everyone when he was at LSU. Was hey, look at how dominating he is.
Yeah.
But there's always, in order to take your game from the college level to the NBA level, you have to be able to push through that initial ceiling, and I think that's what I'm interested to see in Zion Williamson. Whole nother topic. Can he? Obviously, he can dominate college kids. Great. What do you do when you're faced against LeBron and Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid? Can you get into the paint? Can you improve your shooting game? That's exactly what Philly has not seen out of Ben Simmons or Markelle Fultz. He couldn't shoot, period. But yeah, Philly's got to find shooters. I think they get past the Nets, but I don't think they challenge Milwaukee.
And the East is an absolute slaughterhouse this year, which I love. The first year LeBron's not in the East, it's open. You've got Toronto, Milwaukee, Philly, and Boston, an absolute slaughterhouse. Like you said, to win in the NBA, you have to have lethal shooters.
Yes.
The game's changed.
That's why Kyle Korver still has a career.
Exactly. That's why Kyle Guy is going to have a job.
Yes.
Because you don't just destroy him on defense, and he's lethal offensively.
That's why a guy like Fred VanVleet has a career in Toronto right now. He can shoot. He can pull up and shoot the outside shot. If you can
space the floor and knock down open shots, you will have a job.
Yeah.
So Philly, if you're a Philly fan, they're good, and you're a good regular season team, but you're not made for a consistent deep run because you can't outshoot teams.
Yeah.
You can't trade 2s for 3s and expect to win a title. Did you finish the East matchups?
Toronto, Orlando. Orlando took game 1 from Toronto in Toronto's building, which they just have a jinx put on them. Obviously they did win game 2, but consistently Toronto fails to defend their house in the playoffs. Regular season, good luck.
It's unbelievable.
Get into the playoffs, and it's the exact opposite. Kyle Lowry did not have a single point in the first game. A lot of people on Twitter were saying that he should be banned from future All-Star contention because he can't score a point in the playoffs. Take from that what you will.
Yeah.
Orlando, I think, has probably won their only game. I think Brooklyn could take another game from Philly because of Philly's shooting woes.
Yeah.
Right? They've got to be able... If Philly cannot block those three-point shots, get out and defend those, you might see an upset there. Orlando, I don't...
Yeah, and Orlando's just so odd. I love that they're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Vucevic made an all-star team, although he's been kind of atrocious in the playoffs. Haven't heard a lot about Aaron Gordon this year,
No.
he's had a little bit of a drop-off. Orlando's they've got some exciting pieces, but it's very, very inconsistent.
Yeah, they're a young team.
But man, Toronto, again, they dominate the regular season. I don't think they had a losing record. They had a winning record against Milwaukee, Boston, and Philly. I think they went 2-2 or 3-1 against all of them.
But if they get it, if we just go chalk here and get to the semifinals and it's Philly versus Toronto, give me Philly. Just because I don't like the 76ers, but I can't. It's the same way that I was with Virginia before this year in the NCAA. I can't bet on them because they never make it.
Yeah.
They can have all the talent in the world, and they're just not going to win. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, maybe they turn that around. Maybe the Drake curse gets lifted. Who knows? But I think Toronto probably takes that series pretty easily, and then the semifinals get really, really interesting. Over to the West, I'm going to start at the bottom of the bracket because I want your take on the Golden State Clippers game. Denver and San Antonio both tied 1 apiece. San Antonio should be up in this series 2-0. They played really well in the first game. It was a close game between the Nuggets and the Spurs, but San Antonio pulled it out. Second game, they're up by, I want to say, 18.
Yeah, up 19.
Yeah, 19. And then the Nuggets reel off 30-plus in the fourth quarter.
It was the Jamal Murray show, man.
Yes,
went 8 for 9 in the fourth quarter.
He's playing well for the Nuggets right now.
Yeah.
I never thought that I would see a team that had Gary Harris as one of their critical pieces. He was great at Michigan State, but he was never a guy that you were like, oh, yeah, that guy has a future NBA career. All of a sudden, Denver coming out of nowhere this year. That one's a close series because San Antonio should not make it to the next round.
They shouldn't,
but
they
might.
But they have DeMar DeRozan and Greg Popovich.
Yes.
And that's tough to knock out in a 7-game series. It's tough to beat San Antonio 4 games out of 7.
What was it that the Denver coach said, who I'm blanking on his name? They were asking him, like, what do you think Pop's going to do in Game 3 as the series shifts back to San Antonio? And he was like, I'm not even going to pretend I know what he's thinking. He has these championship rings. I have a wedding ring. That's the only thing that keeps San Antonio kind of in this series. I mean, Patty Mills is the only man on that roster who has a championship with the Spurs. Patty Mills is incredible to think about, but they have DeMar DeRozan, they have Greg Popovich, and that's something that you can't really factor into an equation and say, okay, here's how this series plays out, because Pop's just a genius.
In this Denver team, they're really, really solid, but they're not great in any category.
Right.
They're really good defensively. They don't shoot the 3 well. Jokic is really good, but they're just really, really solid. But really, really solid teams, they have playoff woes. Yeah. They're really good in the regular season because they consistently be solid. And they don't really go too high or too low. But in the playoffs, you got to be at the top of your game, and you got to be really, really high.
Yeah.
In Denver, I don't just know if they're that team. Now, they showed a glimpse with Jamal Murray getting white hot in the fourth quarter. But, man, I don't know if I am willing to say Denver can beat San Antonio 4 times.
No, I'm in the same boat. Denver is just one of those teams that sprung onto the scene this year and has kind of filled the void that I think like an Oklahoma City left, that a San Antonio left at the top, right? Mm-hmm. They've slid down, so automatically there are spots available at the top. So I am interested to see how this series ends up. Portland, OKC, Portland on to the next round. Oklahoma City cannot win a championship in their current form. Russell Westbrook is one of the best players in the NBA.
We got a deal. Go Hawks.
That was one of the most uncomfortable videos I've ever watched in my life.
We'll save that for another day.
Yeah, no kidding. Just to the fans, if you get a contract extension, anytime in your life, please do not film a video from bed saying "Go Hawks" and here's my contract extension. Very awkward. The thing about OKC, and I think you're going to agree with this, Russell Westbrook is one of the best players in the NBA, straight up. He can do anything on a basketball court. But the problem is he's such a dynamic player who always needs the ball in his hands and always needs to take shots and always has to be the guy, right? That's why Westbrook and KD didn't gel towards the end of their time there, is both of them are as alpha dog as you get, and they both crave the spotlight. They both have to be the guy, the center of attention. And unfortunately for OKC, what that means is no one else can share any of that. And so even though like guys like Steven Adams are there, are support roles, Russell doesn't really rely on them enough. He takes the ball. He tries to make everything happen. And Portland's not great this year. I mean, when was the last time that Portland was amazing, right? That you thought that team could go win a championship? I mean, it's back when they had like Lamar Aldridge and those guys, right? In their prime.
Or maybe like 2011 with, or it was either 06 or 2011 with Brandon Roy, Roy Hibbert. And even that team wasn't a championship team.
Right. And so Oklahoma City should be competing with Portland. And at the very least, I think this series should be 1-1 going to Oklahoma City. But because it's 2-0, I just don't think that there's enough that OKC brings to the table outside of Westbrook that can take them over the top, beat Dame Lillard in a 7-game series. Plus, you already gave them 2 games. I just don't see OKC coming back from that. Houston and Utah, Houston's going to win that series. I just don't think the Jazz have quite a bit, have enough, I should say, to make a deep run. And then there's Golden State and the LA Clippers. And Golden State should be up 2-0, as should the Spurs. But Golden State blew the largest playoff lead in NBA history. It was 31 points?
31 points.
31 points. People were turning the game off. I saw the score and thought, I'm not even going to tune in. This is a slaughter.
31 points with like 6 minutes left in the third quarter.
Yeah.
The game was over.
Yeah. Except it wasn't.
Yeah.
And Patrick Beverley and the Clippers storm back, and they take game 2 from the Warriors, which you look at the Warriors roster and you just wonder, how do they drop a game? How on earth do you lose to the Clippers of all teams? And, you know, if it's a close contest, if it's just consistently back and forth, that's one thing. But losing a 31-point lead, I think, highlights why I don't think the Warriors will win the championship this year. If I had to bet, I'd bet on Milwaukee. I just think there's so much dysfunction on that team, on that sideline, because, you know, Boogie Cousins is done, right? He's not coming back. When stuff starts to fall apart, I just don't think Klay and Steph are the vocal leaders that team needs right now. I think Draymond Green kind of spins everything and kind of has made everything so dramatic to the point where it's almost like watching a sitcom when you watch them. You know, you tune in to watch, okay, the Warriors are going to win, but who's going to screw what up? Is Draymond going to get ejected tonight? What's KD going to say post-game? They have all the talent in the world. They're the best team on paper, I think, in the NBA, but I don't know. I just think if you get into a slugfest with a team like Milwaukee, and I think Golden State's going to make it to the finals. Do not get me wrong. Give me a first-class ticket to the finals to watch Golden State. But I think when you get into a slug match against a guy like, you know, Giannis and a talented core around him of support players like Chris Middleton, what happens? Do you withstand when all of a sudden Milwaukee goes on a 12-0 run? What happens? Do you shoot your way back in, or do KD and Draymond get into a fight on the sidelines, and that's all we're talking about is Milwaukee hoists a trophy?
Yeah. Oh, man.
So much to dive into.
Lots to respond to.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of how to hit this mini nails on the head.
Yeah, you
here.
didn't think I knew that much about the NBA.
Oh, man. A pleasant surprise. Before I respond to Golden State, let me start with Portland, Oklahoma City. So, one, I definitely meant to say Greg Oden, not Roy Hibbert.
I was going to say,
in the Brandon Roy Portland days. Second, Oklahoma City cannot shoot the ball. They are a classic AAU Summer League team that's super aggressive. They're top of the league in steals, top of the league of offensive rebounds, but they can't shoot the ball. They pressure you, but they trade 2s for 3s. Russell Westbrook cannot shoot the 3. Paul George is a good shooter, but they have no one else outside of Paul George that is dangerous, that you have to really respect their 3-point shot. Portland, on the other hand, has adjusted to modern-day NBA, and they have a lethal backcourt in CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard. They're missing Nurkic, which is tough, but picking up an Enes Kanter, who is just a rim runner, hard-nosed, tough, rebounder, is capable offensively. Portland's a good team.
Yeah.
And they've gone up 2-0. They really pulled away in the second half of the third quarter, fourth quarter against OKC. Russell Westbrook is not – he's not the dude that KD is. He's not the dude that James Harden is. By himself, he's like 3-10 in the playoffs without KD and Harden. And you look at that old OKC team. They lose KD, MVP. They lose Harden, MVP.
Yeah.
They lose Oladipo, 2-time All-Star.
Yeah. They gave up on Oladipo too soon.
And Colin Cowherd was saying, like, they have just given away unbelievable talent.
Yeah.
But man, it's got to be
probably 3 Hall of Famers, 3 of the best to ever play the game.
Yeah.
And Oladipo is certainly in contention to be. He's already a 2-time All-Star. I'm looking forward to seeing what else he does.
He is the face of Indiana's franchise.
Yes. Gave him away.
Yeah. So maybe you want to become a good player, go to OKC, develop,
and then get traded.
Then get out of there. But man, it's got to be frustrating
complex.
because Portland's going to win the series. I could see them sweeping. I could see them winning 4-1.
Yeah.
But I mean, Oklahoma City, they're just limited. They're, like I said, they pressure you, but they can't shoot the ball. But they're taking a ton of threes. They've taken probably 25 a game, which is ridiculous. Get to the hole and get to the foul line if that's what you're good at. So Billy Donovan, coach your team better. Stop letting them shoot so many threes. I mean, my goodness. Yeah. What was after the OKC? Did you go straight into Houston
Jazz?
Yeah, Houston's gonna win. It'll probably be a Houston. Because I think did Houston finish second in the West?
No, they finished 4th.
So they'll be in the
They got to play Golden
semis.
State. Yeah. If it goes chalk, it would be Golden State, Houston, and then Portland, Denver, or Spurs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You're gonna have some.
So honestly, the
semifinals
Western
are gonna be
Conference
awesome.
semifinals will be great. Will be much better than the Western Conference Finals because the winner of Houston Golden State will win the Western Conference.
I agree with that.
Love that. It's gonna be.
Don't be Houston.
It's gonna be Trey Ball City. Yeah, for example, Denver has no chance against Houston. They can't beat Houston because they can't guard the perimeter and match their 3-point shooting with Houston. But yeah, Houston will beat Utah. Utah's got a lot of fun young pieces. I like where they're going forward. If they can add another scoring threat, I love that.
Besides Mitchell.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Gobert is capable offensively, but he's more of a defensive god.
Right.
Lowercase g, of course. We're believers on this show. Yes, Golden State. Demarcus Cousins injured for the rest of the season. Really tough, about 20 minutes into his first postseason, and he tears his quad after tearing his Achilles last year.
Jeez.
Really tough. So
Someone donate him a leg.
Seriously. And honestly, that secures him probably another year in Golden State. He was probably, before the injury, win a ring or go to the finals and then sign a really, really nice contract, probably triple his contract of value. It's about $5.8 million this year. Probably triple his value next year, sign a good deal with someone else next year. Now, he'll probably return to Golden State on another small deal. They only have room to about raise his salary about another $1 million. So probably be in Golden State again. So I had to look into this. I thought Golden State was better without Boogie because before DeMarcus Cousins, Golden State was a switch-heavy team on defense. They put Kevon Looney at the 5. Mavericks great, Mavericks draft pick. Just like everyone, we draft them and then give them away.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. But they switch everything. I didn't know if DeMarcus Cousins could do that. But statistically, Golden State is better on offensive rating and defensive rating with DeMarcus Cousins. He came in about 30 games into the season. They even guard the 3 better, which I was a little surprised. But the thing about that, DeMarcus Cousins, his first game back was when Golden State was on a 9-game winning streak. So there was no pressure. And DeMarcus Cousins has vocalized, or his teammates have, that he's great in the locker room, and he loves that he doesn't have to be the franchise player. He loves that there's no pressure. He just gets to come and play. Mm-hmm. And he's been selfless. In the last 4 games of the season, he averaged like 20 and 12. He's been on a nice tear lately. But with Demarcus Cousins out, everyone's thinking, all right, what do we think of the Warriors? Well, they're the same Warriors as last year. They've got Bogut back, which will be a good piece. They might start him because Bogut just fits in perfectly to their system.
Right.
But Kevon Looney or Bogut will start. They'll switch everything, and they'll be the same Warriors team as last year. So don't worry. I still am team pick Golden State over the field just because you've got the Splash Brothers and Clay and Steph. You've got KD. And yes, KD wants to be – and that's why I think he might leave for New York because he wants to kind of take his own path. And that's why I went to Texas. He responded on Twitter a few years ago. Someone asked him, why did you want to go to Texas over Duke, Carolina, UConn? He said, I wanted to do it my own way, pave my own way.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That's great. He may want to do that in New York. But him and Steph have both been selfless. They've shaved about 2 or 3 points off their averages. Steph went from 30 points a game to 25 points a game the first year with KD. But there's nothing really to worry about the Warriors. The only thing to worry about, obviously, is with Houston. Golden State, we talked last year in a podcast when I was at camp. You called, and we were talking about what can Cleveland do to beat Golden State.
Yes.
And it's out-rebound them.
Yes.
Because they're very susceptible on the boards. So you crash the glass. That's why Clint Capella could be lethal against Golden State for Houston.
Yeah.
Because he can out-rebound the entire Golden State city.
Oh, I wanted him in a Mavs
which
jersey
isn't
so
even
badly.
a city, so that sounded geographically unintelligent. Golden State Nation, how about that? But nothing to worry about. They'll be a little bit worse with Boogie just because he has come in and defeated all odds coming back from an Achilles injury.
Yeah.
But they're the same Warriors team from last year to an extent. So I'll ask you this. So you said you would pick Milwaukee over the winner of Houston Golden State.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. I'm going to pick Golden State. I like Milwaukee to win the East.
Yeah.
Just because Chris Middleton.
It's hard not to like him to win the
Yeah,
East.
especially with Toronto's kind of iffy. Don't like Philly. Boston is iffy. Marcus Smart's out with an injury.
Yeah, it's huge.
That's a huge loss defensively. Love Milwaukee. They've added 3-point shooting. What's the guy's name they added from New Orleans? He's injured right now, I believe. 3-point shooter. Because Chris Middleton significantly improved his 3-point shooting and made the All-Star game for the first time. But then they added this shooter at the trade deadline. I'm forgetting his name.
It wasn't Brogdon, was it?
No, it was a trade with New Orleans. He hurt his wrist. He's out like 4 weeks, or he was out 4 weeks.
I'll keep looking for it.
Anyway, really like Milwaukee. Giannis is a freak. He can't shoot the ball. So people say Giannis is the best player on the earth.
Mirotic.
Mirotic, yeah. They added Mirotic, who fits perfectly into that system.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say Giannis is the best player on the earth just because he shoots 25% from three.
Right.
And he could easily be the best athlete, freak of nature on the earth. But skill-wise, he is very limited shooting. But honestly, he doesn't have to shoot. Because the difference in Philly and Milwaukee has shooters to space the floor. Ben Simmons doesn't have a shooter to space the floor. Ben Simmons is limited shooting, and he gives it to more limited shooters.
Mm-hmm.
Milwaukee, Giannis can give it to capable shooters.
Mm-hmm.
Huge difference there. So I'll pick Golden State over Milwaukee in the finals. You have the opposite.
Fun. It would be fun. Yeah, no.
That would be a very exciting. Giannis versus KD. Ooh.
Yeah. No, it would be great. I mean, when was the last time the city of Milwaukee won anything?
Seriously, Bob Sturm would be elated.
It was
being
probably what, the Packers in 2011. When did they win the?
And then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was in Milwaukee, I think.
Ooh, I don't know
way
about that.
back when.
I'm not an NBA historian.
So it's
at
been,
all.
regardless, it's been an eternity.
Yes. So I mean, I was rooting for the Brewers last year out of the NL for baseball.
Yelich has been.
Woo!
Yikes.
9 home runs on the season, 8 of them against the St. Louis Cardinals.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. 8 of them.
My gosh.
Against one team. So if you're St. Louis, you are praying that you don't match up with them if you make it to the postseason. I think I have both.
I think you had the Cardinals making.
I definitely have the Cardinals making it. honestly, I think I had the Cardinals winning that division, which rough start for that projection. But anyway, I digress. No, it would be fun to see a different team. It would be fun to see Giannis go to Milwaukee, put that team on his back, something that maybe KD will do once he goes to free agency, and build that thing around him, right? I mean, you love seeing homegrown success.
Yeah.
I hate the idea of LeBron calling players going, hey, let's build a super team.
Yeah.
Let's win, untold NBA championships. And then it's really funny when it blows up and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But I just hate the idea that players get on the horn with their buddies and say, hey, you want to play basketball together? Sweet. Okay, ownership group, here's what we're going to do because I said so.
And Damian Lillard is outspoken against that.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah, no, if Damian Lillard wanted to play anywhere else, he could.
Oh, of course.
He has the clout to where he would go, okay, look, this isn't working out. It's been fun, Portland.
Yeah.
But I'd like to get past the semifinals, so trade me. And he would. He would be traded, and he could go win championships with whichever team he picked, right?
Yep.
But he's chosen not to do that, and it makes the game more exciting. Sports are a lot more fun when there's parity.
Yep.
If you just have a top-heavy league, which is what the NBA has been the last several years, right? When it's just LeBron and Steph, no one really, and I say this generally, I know there are NBA fans out there, but on the whole, no one cares about the 82-game regular season until you get to the playoffs. And then it's okay. Are these two teams, is LeBron destined to meet the super team from the West? Yes. Okay, now we have a media circus about the finals. And there you go. And then the NBA season is over. I like to see it kind of even out. And part of it has been that the Mavs have been so bad for the last several years. Now it's exciting to see them kind of start to build stuff up. You're going to have Kristaps. You're going to have Luka. You're going to have a max free agent, hopefully, as long as we don't mess up. It just introduces more and more parity into the league. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, and quickly to your point, and the NBA is quickly becoming a transaction league where no one's watching regular season games.
Yeah.
You're paying attention to the trade deadline, trades, free agency, and that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Because of, and now one, it's a testament of how good LeBron and Steph are because their teams are able to be consistently winning. But at the same time, for there's only about 4 franchises typically in the last few years that have had a chance.
Right.
Realistically, 2. But and the other teams are just, and like I said, transactions. All right, how can we remain at the forefront of the news? All right, let's do some transactions. Let's do something else because our ability to play basketball is not drawing fans in. But the NBA playoffs have been pleasantly different than we expected.
I would agree.
That's why college sports is so great because there's so many things that happen, so many surprises.
Right.
So there've been a little bit of surprise in the NBA playoffs, which has been great. But now moving in to a non-surprise, Christian cliche, it's no surprise. Jesus defeated death.
Yep.
But it's Easter Sunday coming up, and Mitch and I, every year, we think it's important, the episode leading up to Easter, just reshare our faith, why it's important to us, what it's meant to us, and why we think it's important to talk about it on the podcast. So with that, I'll just kind of throw it to you on Easter Sunday, what it means to you, and whatnot.
Yeah, so obviously the Easter story is the center of the Christian faith, right? That Christ came, he was born on Christmas, lived a perfect, sinless life for 33 years on this earth, did something that we could not do. And then, on Palm Sunday, enters Jerusalem, heralded as a king. The Jews thought that he was the savior that was going to rule on earth at the time and free them from the Roman oppression. And instead, Jesus freed them from much greater oppression of sin and darkness and eternal separation from God. And so, as the Easter story plays out, he's heralded as a king coming in, and just a week later, those exact same people condemn him to death after he's been betrayed by Judas. And Christ is crucified on the cross, raises again 3 days later. continues his earthly ministry for a little bit of time, and then ultimately ascends into heaven. Something that I've kind of recentered myself with as we've gone through this week was just the idea of his selflessness, right? When you get to the prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane, Christ is afraid. He is terrified. In fact, he's so afraid and nervous that he ends up sweating blood. And, you know, as I've read the Easter account this week and the events leading up to it, I was just struck by the fact that, you know, you and I get nervous over stuff that is trivial. We worry about grades. We worry about impressions that we make on people. We worry about our careers. And yet, in this moment, Christ had something infinitely more consequential to worry about. He knew exactly what was going to happen to him. Right? Our fear stems from the unknown. Christ's fear stemmed from the known in that moment. He knew exactly the torment and the torture that he was going to undergo. The whipping, the beating, the cuts, the bruises, the literal breaking of bones in the end. And he knew how terrible that suffocation was going to be on the cross, right? And the hours that he would hang there. But most importantly, aside from a physical aspect, he knew that he was about to experience what it was like to be separated from God. He knew that his Father, who he has been eternally joined to and will always be going forward, he knew that for a moment God was going to turn his face away and put the full wrath of the Heavenly Father on his Son to atone for all the sins that you and I commit, and you know, all the other people that have ever existed. All of that was atoned for in that moment, and he knew that. And so, thinking about just how monumental that was, and yet he didn't back down. Christ stayed obedient to the end. He prayed that, God, if there is another way, please bring it. But if it's your will, then your will be done. And so that's what struck me this week, and it's challenged me to look, if I can't obey God when there is seemingly no pressure on me, right? You know, I'm saved, my faith is secured, yet we're still called to obey God day in and day out. If I can't obey him on a day-to-day basis, what am I doing? Christ obeyed him knowing what all was about to happen. And so that's just challenged me this week to constantly be in prayer, be in the Word, be growing deeper, continuing to push myself. I know that something that I get hung up on sometimes is complacency. If I have a busy week, if I have a busy month, sometimes I can let my devotionals and my prayer time kind of slip, become secondary. And yet this really challenged me to, ramp it up. Let's do devotionals. Let's also continue reading outside of just the Bible. Let's continue pouring into my walk with Christ. And I think that's a great reminder for everyone out there that, look, just please do not become complacent. Jesus warns us that we can never be lukewarm. You're on one side or the other. And not that, I'm in danger of losing my faith at all. That's not what I'm saying. But we as Christians, in order for the sanctification process to continue to abound in our lives, we also must push ourselves to be more obedient and to continue reaching, kind of the newer heights of our faith and deepening our relationships with Christ. So that's what I had on tap this week.
Awesome stuff from Mitchell Mason. Yeah, I mean, the Easter story is amazing. I mean, thinking that God even created us. I mean, God was in perfect relationship with himself, his triune nature, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, perfect relation with himself. But out of his love, it's almost like his love required, and this isn't supposed to be blasphemy, but it's almost like his love required a creation of us so he can love us. He wanted us to experience his love.
Right, and ultimately glorify himself through that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he created us, and we said no. Sin enters the world. We are tainted by sin. And God's holiness, his perfect holiness, requires justice. God is equally just, equally loving, and gracious. So the fact that God requiring His holiness requiring justice. So you know what? Every person that lives, any person doesn't deserve to be with me because they're unholy. Unholiness cannot be with holiness because then it taints the holiness.
Mm-hmm.
So God said, you know what? It's going to take a perfect sacrifice to cover the imperfect sins. So God sent his son, Jesus Christ, to live the perfect life that we're called to, so that when we believe in Jesus Christ, the perfect blood is a covering over our sins. So God looks at us and he sees the perfect covering of Christ, and we're in right relationship. We're not required to follow any law. The law was given to the Old Testament believers, one, to show that they can't be perfect. It was a humbling mechanism. Two, so they can better know God, what he cares about. And three, so that they can experience God on earth.
Mm-hmm.
By following the law, you got blessings on earth. Now, we're not bound by the law. Jesus fulfilled the law by being perfect, and we get to just say, yes, I actively surrender to you, Jesus Christ, for the only way I can be in right relationship with God. I think the thing I've grown to understand as incredibly important to be able to believe in Jesus is to understand our depravity, to understand our need for Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't understand our need and our absolute brokenness and our depravity, we won't believe in Christ because we don't think we need to. So I think loving God more is also coming to a fuller knowledge of how broken I really am and how much I need Christ. Like, man, as I've studied more, as I've fallen in love with Jesus more, I've really come to understand how broken I really am. Like,
right.
Man, I have to have Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing that God even sent Christ because he didn't have to. God doesn't need us at all. He wants us to experience him. He wants to pour out his love on us so much. He was willing to say, Jesus, I need you to die for them.
Right.
And Jesus did, which is even more amazing. I mean, there are so many beautiful things about the entirety of creation, the Easter story. So yeah, for the believers out there, just have a heart of gratitude. Understand your depravity and be thankful for the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Have a heart of thankfulness. And for those who don't believe, I mean, ask us questions. Reach out to us. Ask people you know who do believe. Look, if this stuff sounds wacky, that's fine. I'm not trying to convince you of anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I encourage you to have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Because I love having conversations with people of other beliefs, understanding their worldview, their belief system. So look, if you're not a believer, I challenge you to ask a believer to tell you why they believe. I mean, we both have personal testaments of our faith. I mean, I grew up with my dad dying when I was 8, and I got to see firsthand the transformative power of Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he provides salvation, but he also provides transformation of us on earth.
Right.
Transformation from the brokenness that sin causes, how sin wounds us. He renews our minds, as Romans 12 promises. He transforms our hearts, makes us a new creation. The blood of Christ isn't just a salvation mechanism. It's also a transformative mechanism on this earth, which is amazing. Like, we get to see the fruits of that now. Mitch and I have both grown to become different people through the blood of Christ.
Yes.
Like, we're not the same person we were when we first started walking with Jesus.
Thank God for that.
Yeah. And it's amazing. We know we have that eternal security, but we also know that we're becoming more like Christ, which is amazing. You talked about sanctification. We are justified by the blood of Christ, guaranteeing that salvation, and then we're called to pursue sanctification and become more like Christ. Because, as David says in the Psalms, there is nothing like experiencing God. And you read in Ecclesiastes, all these things don't matter. Experiencing God, there is nothing more than it being in right relationship with God and in continuously experiencing that. Because we can choose honestly in every decision we make to not experience God or to experience God. And as we continue saying yes to experiencing God, we keep wanting to say yes because we realize that there is nothing greater than it.
Absolutely. Just real quick to end, you were talking, to those who don't believe and don't necessarily want to seek that out. I would encourage you to read the Easter story. If you're listening to this around Easter or not, just give it a shot. In Matthew 26 through 27 is the brunt of the Easter story. And there were many there that did not believe and never believed. Mm-hmm. But there was a man there that the Bible mentions, not by name, but by title. And that's the Roman centurion that was guarding the cross, was in charge of Jesus' execution. After Jesus died, gave up his spirit, as it says in verse 50. Skip down a couple of verses, and in verse 57, after the earth shook, the rocks split, tombs broke open, the dead were raised to life, the centurion, seeing all of this, and with those who were with him, he was not by himself, he was with other Roman centurions who had just killed a man, he exclaims, surely this was the Son of God. And so, if you are listening to this and you don't have a relationship with Christ, like Luke said, have a conversation about it. Read a little bit for yourself. Start to ask questions because, we're not sitting up here and saying this for our benefit, right? We get nothing out of this. This is truly from our heart to yours, just imploring you, just have a taste of it. Taste and see that the Lord is good. So that's what I'll leave you with.
Absolutely. Well, we thank you so much for joining us in episode 35 of the pod. Again, we love doing this, and looking forward, we've got plenty of sports to talk about. NFL draft coming up.
That's big next week.
MLB baseball.
Rangers are above 500 right now.
Yes.
Woo!
Yes. I realized I said MLB baseball, which would be Major League Baseball. Anyway, more NBA playoffs continued, moving into the finals, end of May, early
Stars
June.
play tonight. They're down 2-1 to the Preds.
Yes.
They need to win tonight.
Yes. So, there's, like we said, this is a great time for sports. But for another day, we will join you next week after Easter Sunday, talk some more sports, talk some more faith. For that, this is episode 35 of Double Coverage Sports Talk presented by Elevated Sports.